What's your dissertation about?
So I'm studying how COVID impacted nonprofits fundraising. So and within that, it's like I'm trying to see whether fundraising in particular, like spending on advertising or fundraising, helped nonprofits raise revenue during before COVID, and whether doing with the impact of COVID, they were still able to raise revenues after.
Realize that the cultural factor is overlooked in the mainstream comparative politics. So I want to explore that.
Welcome to another episode of the Auburn MPA Goes Beyond the Books podcast. And our topic today is showcasing students' dissertation, innovative research work, and citations. And our guest on this episode today is Prince John Oricha.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Prince Oricha. I've been at Auburn, in the doctoral program for public administration since August 2021. Okay. So getting toward the end, I plan to graduate in December of this year. So just right now trying to decide on a day for the dissertation defense. But yeah, it's been a good ride.
And it's coming real good.
Yeah, it's done. It's just you need to get a committee to agree on a particular date. So we're trying to figure out what that day will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And our second guest on today's episode is Linggong Kong. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Linggong Kong. I'm right now a Ph.D. candidate. I started this program since 2020, but I had a 1 year of absence because of the COVID. At that time, I was in China, and right now I'm almost finish my dissertation. So everything going well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know. When are you looking at graduating?
I plan to graduate next May.
Next May.
Yeah.
Congratulations, all the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just dive right into the conversation, and I would like to find out from our guests. Most of the time we hear about students' dissertation, the research work that they're doing as PhD candidates, as PhD students. So, but then I would like to know from our guests what exactly is a dissertation.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can.
Do you want to go first? Oh.
Okay, so I think dissertation is a project that you want to explore that someone else has not explored before. So it is a very important point at your PhD career. So you can show that everyone that what you have been pursuing, what you have been interested about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, similar. I mean, I've been in school for a long time. Did a bachelor's in computer science.
Yeah.
Master's in economics, MBA. So, and now this PhD. So it's like all different degrees, but like Linggong said, the one thing that's different with a dissertation as opposed to maybe you can even do thesis in master's programs, but the big difference is what you're doing in your dissertation has to be at its core something nobody has explored before. And saying that with like some leeway here, because you can't possibly do something nobody has done.
Exactly. So I was about asking you, how do you find out what somebody has not done?
Yeah,
before?
what it is usually, I remember even before I came to the program, one of my friends used to tell me that usually is it two or three? I'll say them. But there are a couple main things that make a difference when you're doing this dissertation. One is you might either use new data to study something. So people have done maybe unemployment and try to figure out what's causing unemployment, and you find some special data set that you can use to figure that out, supported by literature. Okay, then that's one. So you could either come up with it's three things: new data, new theory about maybe, again, what causes unemployment. Most people will say economic factors or whatever. You may find that something like average age or the number of nonprofits in a place causes. If that's your theory, well, you test it, right? And so the third part is coming up with a new method, so empirical method to test something. So usually it's one of those three that really make your dissertation stand out in terms of what you find.
And what's your dissertation about?
So I'm studying how COVID impacted nonprofits fundraising. So and within that, it's like I'm trying to see whether fundraising in particular, like spending on advertising or fundraising, helped nonprofits raise revenue during before COVID, and whether with the impact of COVID, they were still able to raise revenues after. So just the impact of marketing on fundraising, basically.
Okay. And Linggong, your dissertation, what's it about?
Yeah, my dissertation studies how cultural traditions influence democratic performance, especially the differences between Protestant democracies and the Confucian democracies.
Okay, and what inspired you? Is it because nobody has done it, or because you saw a gap that you feel that your research is going to actually fill in that gap? Or
I realized that the cultural factor is overlooked in the mainstream comparative politics. So I want to explore that, especially when people talking about the democracies like Eastern democracy, Japan, South Korea, or Taiwan. They think they are successful stories of democracy, but actually, I find that I feel that they are different compared with the Western democracy. So I want to explore why they are kind of different.
Okay. And Prince, you said you're actually interrogating how COVID-19 impacted on nonprofit fundraising. Yeah. So what methodologies or approach did you use in this research work?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a long story to describe how I got there, but what I can say is I'm using what you call an interrupted time series. So I want it to be as close to saying this led to this as possible, like causal inference. So because COVID, everybody experienced COVID, right? Like nobody, no nonprofit escaped the impact of COVID when it came. So it's basically a method that lets you use an external shock like COVID to determine whether the factor, like, of course, my key factors are things like fundraising expense, total revenues, assets, the age of the nonprofit, things like that, to see whether given the impact COVID had, whether all those things had any impact too on helping nonprofits raise funds. So it's just that method, again, is called interrupted time series, but it's a method that helps you use an external event to try and do time series analysis. So it's like, it may help to understand my data. I'm looking at nonprofits that existed in the US that reported their financial data from 2013 to 2023. So it's like the same nonprofits across 11 years. So it's about 30 to 35,000, depending on the data set, but that I use. So that's sort of the idea.
Okay. Do you want to talk to us about the methodology you used?
Yeah, I employed a mixed method in terms of methodology. So including quantitative and qualitative. So for quantitative, I collected data from 1990 to 2024, and including the Protestant democracy and Confucian democracies. And for the qualitative study, I used some case studies that focus on like Japan's hereditary politicians, this phenomena, and also South Korea very corrupt politics.
Okay. But then, are there existing gaps in literature that your work specifically addresses?
Yeah. So because I didn't find the people like study how culture tradition influence the democratic performance. Maybe I think it's a political right issue, because when people talk about culture, so now I want to explore that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Prince.
Yeah.
Are there gaps in literature that your work, it's addressing?
Yeah. how do I, because there are a couple of gaps, but the one main thing is there's a Lee, I can't remember the first name, is YJ Lee. I always cite it as YJ Lee, but I can't remember. But he's done a couple of studies on something similar, marketing. But I think mine addresses, I guess, 3 gaps. Mine is, at least as far as I know, the first that shows not just analytically, like with numbers, but I do some GIS with my data. So it's just showing how marketing varies across the US. But not just that, but that is, I do what they call clustering analysis. So it's like, do nonprofits, there's a theory in nonprofit studies that says nonprofits tend to copy what fellow nonprofits are doing when they're in the same geographical area. So if you go to maybe the northeast of the US and most nonprofits there tend to spend a lot on marketing, neighboring or surrounding nonprofits ought to spend based on that theory. So this is sort of the first geographical test where I do a cluster analysis on a map and show whether there's a trend in the way nonprofits spend based on what neighboring nonprofits in either county. I do mine at zip code level, whether there's similarities in spending there, and I do find that across the 11 years of my study. Another gap is because I'm doing it as a panel study, which means I'm looking at the same nonprofits over the 11 years.
Okay.
Most people have only done it in 1 year.
So is the nonprofit you're looking, is it just a nonprofit?
A single nonprofit.
Just a single nonprofit?
So each, again, because it's a single nonprofit across the same year, it's like in the larger data set for each year is approximately 200 to 300,000 nonprofits. But because I'm only considering, at least for the analytical regression, I'm only considering the ones that have reported and existed. They reported their financial statements and existed between 2013 and 2023. That compresses to about 30,000 nonprofits. So looking at them as a group, you can then make inferences not just on, well, in 2013 this happened, but in over 11 years, this is how nonprofits tend to spend. This is where their fundraising works, and that just makes the analysis strong, the results or the outcomes stronger. And then I guess a third part would be the data set I'm using. So just like Linggong, it's like most people tend to use just, again, assets, liabilities, things like that. I also include census-based variables, like things like unemployment at the zip code level, things like the age, educational level, because all those theoretically should also impact, like if you're in a zip code, let's say in Birmingham, in Alabama, for example, there's, I don't know if you know Mountain Brook, but it's like the sort of affluent area in Alabama. So if you live in Mountain Brook and your nonprofit is there, you should expect, because the average income there is higher, that you may find more success with raising funds if you market yourself. So I factor all those kind of things as well, trying to put in demographic variables and see whether they have an impact. So those are 3 things I don't think have been done before that I try to do in my analysis.
So looking at the trends of things with fundraising for nonprofits now, how do you believe your work is important at this time?
Yeah, for one, a lot, because I try to make a lot of I'm a sort of how do you say, applied person at heart. I don't just like to do an eye like, how does this make sense to anybody? So one of the things a nonprofit can take, for example, is when you look at the trends on the GIS side, it almost doesn't make sense to even spend on marketing if you are in the western region of the US. Like literally that place is what you call a cold spot zone, which is, they're not only, a few nonprofits spend a lot, but really they don't even get much results from it in terms of fundraising. So those are some of the practical things that an actual nonprofit, not just scholar, but practitioner could look at and say, well, okay, if we are going to be based here or maybe expand our operations to here, it doesn't make sense to really spend much on marketing. Or you could take it as, maybe we will find, because not many people spend here, we may find that it's useful. Whatever way you decide to take it, that's an outcome of it. Another thing is that fundraising, in fact, does help. So can you guess how many nonprofits are in the US today? How many nonprofits do you think are in the US? I mean, it's a general question to anyone.
100,000, more than 100,000.
How
More
many?
than what? 100,000?
How many? Okay, that's your guess. How many do you think?
I think about that too.
Nearly 2 million is the
Whoa.
actual number. Nearly 2 million. So that's,
Does that include international organizations.
Yeah, it
that
includes
work outside of the
yeah,
US.
it includes
Okay.
yeah. You know, in US they have all these classifications. I'm particularly looking at what you call 501c3 organizations, which is those that can get a tax
Registered.
break
Okay.
from
Yeah.
people donating. So, but there are many other categories. But again, it's almost 2 million. And so if you are a single I mean, of course, we know the bigger guys, Red Cross.
Yeah.
In this data set in particular, schools are also considered to be nonprofits. Like
Non-profits,
Johns
yeah.
Hopkins is considered one of the nonprofits there. But the point being, because there's so many, how do you stand out? Like if you come and you say you're helping people with disabilities, well, there are 1,000 other nonprofits helping people with disabilities. Like what makes you stand out? Of course, marketing is one of the ways you can sort of promote and say, well, this is what we're doing that's different, or this is how we're doing it that's different. And so it's an essential part. And so one of the outcomes of my research is to show that, well, even in the face of COVID, in fact, I wish I had some of the charts to show, but if you see the trends, fundraising was going down pre-COVID. COVID came, more marketing happened, and fundraising went even bigger than it was pre-COVID. Yeah. So, you know, that's sort of a sign that marketing does make an impact. So because there's all these debates about should nonprofits market, or is it make sense to spend donor funds on fundraising and things like that, but the evidence shows that it does help. So that's a good thing, I guess, for.
Yeah, but then there should be a certain percentage of money that nonprofits should spend for fundraising.
Yeah, I mean, if again from the research, I think it's most nonprofits spend 5 to 15% of their income or revenues on fundraising. So it's there, and even the data shows the same. But the real thing is whether that actually leads to fundraising. In the end, it's not like we just don't want to market and like, okay, we have flyers or we have social media. No, is it actually helping? Because a nonprofit, how do you survive? You survive on people giving you money. Most nonprofits. So that was really what I wanted to figure out. Does it have a significant effect on raising funds? And it does. So it's like, if people say marketing is not useful, well, you can point to actual research showing that it is, and actual nonprofits that raise funds because of the impact of the spending they put on that. So,
okay. So I'll come over to you, Linggong. Why do you have to defend your dissertation before a committee? Why do you have to do that?
I think.
I mean, what's important is just how important is that? You know, for the purposes of our viewers who will be, you know, seeing this podcast. Why do you have to go before a committee to defend that?
I think technically, this design is to make sure your dissertation meet the requirement, the standards of a so-called dissertation. So I think it can make sure your dissertation meets the rigorous academic standard.
Okay.
So maybe it's just a ceremony, but it's important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me paint a scenario now. Is it possible for if your committee chair and members are not satisfied with your work, is it possible for them to say, oh, you won't be graduating or something, or you should go back and probably start from the beginning to collect data and do your work very well? Like, how does it work? Can you just walk us through it?
Yeah, I think during the time when you write the dissertation, the committee members will communicate with you about how's the dissertation going, right? So if they spot some problems, they will inform you of that ahead of the dissertation defending, right? So they will make sure that will not happen in your dissertation defending. So that means you will solve all the problems ahead of the defending.
Yeah, that's right.
Prince, have you defended before a committee?
Well, I've done, in our program, we do two. There's the prospectus defense and the final one. So I've done the prospectus. I'm waiting for the final.
So what's the prospectus defense?
Yeah, prospectus is like, essentially, your committee wants to know if what do you want to do, how are you going to do it, and what are you going to use to do it, and why is it useful for anybody, right? So that's really what you need to communicate. Most times, even if you some depending on your committee, you might have only 5 pages of that explains that, and that's fine. Some like my committee, the preference was for up to closer to 50 pages of an outline that describes that. But either way, it's just to try and get to know, does this person know what they're doing? Like, are they ready to graduate? Bring in theories of all the stuff you've learned and what you're trying to contribute in your field. So that's really what they want to know.
So that's for the prospectus.
Yes.
And the final defense is what is
my opinion on the final is easier, because it's like, now you're all you want to do is, okay, you said you want to do this, right? Show us what you found.
Okay.
That's really it. So it's, let's say there are 5 chapters in the dissertation, then usually the first 2 you should have in hand by when you're doing the prospectus. Then the last 2, which is your the data and methods, and then your analysis and your results. So you should have that in hand by the time you're defending the final. So it's like, if I said at the start, okay, I want to know how marketing impacts fundraising and use COVID as an external shock. Okay, at the end, I should be able to say, what did I find? So those are the main things. And like Linggong said, it's like, you with the committee, you try to address all those issues incrementally. It's not like you get on the final day and they're like, oh, we don't know what you're doing. You're not graduating this year. The plan should be in place, and typically your chair at least would sort of want you to have a timeline of events of, okay, when do you plan to graduate? What do we need to do to get to that point? So yeah.
Okay. So I mean, your graduation technically also lies with how satisfied your committee members are.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, so you have have you defended for your prospectus?
Yes, definitely.
So what are the biggest challenges that you experienced or you came that you encountered in preparing for it and in the process, and how did you overcome those challenges? Did you have any form of difficulties or challenges?
I think the biggest challenge for me is to communicate with all committee members, to make sure they are all on the same page, so they can green light, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. And also for me, because I'm an international student, my native language is not English.
Okay.
It's about the writing. You need to meet the required standard, right? The academic English writing standard. Yeah. So I need to refine my writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just said you are an international student, and I want to take you on that. So how did your personal experience or identity actually shape, the area you are researching on?
Yeah, because I'm an international student. I'm from China, so I'm very familiar with East Asian, right? So my dissertation is compare the Protestant democracies and the Confucian democracy, because like China is deeply influenced by Confucian culture, and the other Northeastern countries are also deeply impacted by this kind of culture. So I know, so this background knowledge make me have a grasp of how Confucian can impact the government, the governance. Yeah, so this gave me an edge, and this inspires me to write this dissertation topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Prince, are there challenges that you encountered when you were defending your prospectus, and are there challenges that you also foresee in your finals?
Yeah, I would say my biggest challenge probably it's more my nature. It's like I like to really, really know what I want to say. So I don't, for example, if I want to present something, I'm not good with reading script, like going by a script. So I want to really know everything cold, 3 days to my my prospectus defense, I realized, okay, everybody is talking about marketing, but when you read the financial reports, the Form 990, where nonprofits report how they spend, there's nothing there called marketing. What is there is advertising and then fundraising expense, both of which are considered marketing in aggregate, but like you can't just add them and say that's marketing, which is what I thought a lot of the like previous research papers were doing. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a problem, because if anybody in the audience or the committee figures this out, it's going to be a big deal for me. So I basically had to redo.
Did they figure it out?
No, I told Dr. Krawczyk beforehand. Like when I was like, okay, this is something I changed just days ago. So hopefully it won't present an issue. But I didn't want it to be that I'm there and they figure it out and they're like, and then I don't know what to say.
Okay.
So I basically had to, I've been working on this data set. I mean, based on, see how I describe it, it's like, it's a real crazy thing to work with. But I've been working on it since spring last year. So this is over almost 9 months of straight on building a data set, and I had to change it all in 7 hours. Because I wanted to have it and like, oh, this is what I'm
How fun
doing.
was that?
Huh? No, it wasn't fun. I didn't sleep. It was like, I'll never forget, because it was 8 p.m. on Saturday night to 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. And I still had to be at church, so that's his own thing. But yeah, that was probably my biggest challenge, just trying to make sure I had my data, just because, again, nobody had really done this before. So all I know is I know how to work with panel data, but even the process of making a data, just imagine this, there's 30,000 nonprofits, all of them are 11-year data sets, and then they are stacked on top of each other. So let's say you have Red Cross 2013, 2014, 2015, that's 11 rows is your first data set. United Way, 2013, so it was like all that, and then you have some of them had up to some, because I had combined multiple data sets, so that was like almost at some, I think about 70 something variables. So just putting it together was, I had to really think of how the data should look before you then do the analysis. So that was probably my biggest challenge. And then thankfully that's done now. My analysis is done, so escape that. For my final, I think probably the biggest challenge would just be trying to make everything sound in simple terms. One of the things a member of my committee has raised, like I want it to be, I'm not just talking about I did this nice grand thing, but anybody who hears it can understand, okay, this is what he's saying. Even if they don't know anything about nonprofits or statistical analysis or anything, I want to be able to communicate it as clear as possible. So I'm really working towards doing that.
Okay, great. I think we're doing good with time too. So let's go to the next lap of the conversation, as we look at innovative research work and citation. So Linggong, how do you balance between creativity in your research work and the responsibility for a proper citation? Like, for instance, when you want to take up just like the kind of research work that Prince, is undertaking, like when you want to be so creative and innovative with your research, how do you balance it up with, that responsibility to cite properly? And I would also like you to also, while responding to this, talk about what citation is for the purposes of our viewers and people who might not exactly know what citation is.
Yeah, so you should make citations properly according to the rigorous standard. So make sure you are not plagiarize the previous scholars' work, and for some innovative source you can just plainly state your what you think, and you can maybe insert a footnote in your dissertation that you to expand on what you think.
Okay.
Yeah, but importantly, you should cite the previous scholars' work appropriately and detailedly. If you cite very specific thought, like in one book, you should also cite the page number of that book, not just the name or and the year. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So Prince, what are the different types of citations, that you have come across, and which of them do you think is more convenient to use?
Yeah, overwhelmingly, I mean, I use APA citation style.
Okay. Why is that?
I just like it. It's straightforward. It's clean, in my opinion. So, for example, in our program, I've worked with mainly two. There's the Chicago style and then APA style. APA style is more common in general in our journals. APA style is required. So, by default, that's what everyone in our program should at least have some idea about how to use it. But for me, it's clean. For example, when we use Chicago requires you to use what you call footnotes, endnotes. So it's like on one page, you can have just a lot of smaller text all over the place. With APA, you only have the in-text citation and the final page reference. So for me, that's just clean. And then I don't know if Linggong uses the same, but there's this software called Zotero.
Mm-hmm.
So Zotero is it's a citation manager that really helps you streamline how you cite, makes that job really easy when you're good with it. So I've used it since my first year. For APA, it's fantastic. Again, it's like citations to me are almost like just having fun, because when everything is neatly arranged in Zotero, it's just almost a click and add thing, and it's pretty easy. So yeah.
So when you use footnotes in your work, do you need to also have a reference page at the end of your work? For
Chicago, yes. I don't. For APA, doesn't require using footnotes. I don't really use footnotes in my APA works. My dissertation is probably going to have only one, and I know that one very well because I just talked with my advisor about it, so I know it's. But in Chicago, you really need to have a lot of footnotes. A lot of the citations have. So for me, that's why I use APA. It's just a nice style.
So Prince, I will still stay with you.
Yeah.
I read your biography.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that you are a Giving Tuesday Research Fellow.
Yeah.
And you are awarded Data Commons Global Fellowship Grant for Research.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question now is what innovative aspect of your work do you think helped you stand out in the selection process?
I won't say it's innovation, honestly. I'll say it's persistence. So I've always wanted to, for a long time, I wanted to work with them. So last year, I was trying to look for summer internships, and they had one for some research analyst thing. Was it summer internship?
Giving Tuesday?
Giving Tuesday,
Okay.
yes. So I applied. I didn't get in, but I think the interview went. So actually, it was a marketing internship. That's why I wanted to do it, because it was going to relate to my dissertation. I could have maybe found. I was hoping to find something interesting. Didn't work out. So I was like, okay, well, I think I had a good relationship with the hiring manager who interviewed me. So she had said, okay, well, I'm sorry you're not the one, but anything else pops up, I'll put in a word for you. Okay. So that was what led to. I told her, oh, there's this Giving Tuesday fellowship that they started maybe 2 years ago, and it's a good. Honestly, all I wanted a grant because they give you money. So I was like, yeah, I would like to have some money anyway. So I told her about it, and that's really what helped. In the end, I applied. I mean, normally they give 3 people. I was the only one who got it last year. I don't know if that's because of applications. I don't know what happened, but I was the only awardee last year, and so I've been working on. It's sort of built into my dissertation. It's like the geographical side of things. It's 2 papers I'm actually doing for them. One is looking at whether social media campaigns drive fundraising performance. So, we want to raise $10,000 for saving dogs. Well, if we have social media profiles and we have different posts, do that actually help more people see your posts and then drive you help meeting your fundraising goals? Yeah. We'll see. Because the data sets for that are really hard to get from, if you know anything about social media today, they're very greedy with sharing their data to researchers, especially X, which I wanted to use. So that's his own issue. But the other part is just the GIS variations thing, which is basically an offshoot of my dissertation. So yeah, I would just say it's persistence. One thing I try to do is look out for opportunities. And not just me, there are many other students who have found fellowships and funding through similar means. But usually, I mean, those opportunities you don't need to be doing some incredible stuff to get it. You just need to find it and apply. And that was my case, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Linggong, I also want to mention that you wrote an article that reached, a certain milestone of over 300,000 views, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I consider that very a great achievement, right? Okay. So why do you think this particular piece of work, struck that chord with so many readers and researchers?
Firstly, because it's very relevant, because that article I wrote is about the U.S. China trade wars. So my point at that time, my point is that actually China has more cards than Trump think. So it was a hit, and actually my article proves that I was right. You can see in the U.S. China trade wars, the U.S. said they backed they backed, right, and China push against on the U.S. Trade tariffs. And right now the both sides are still negotiating. So I think I analyze objectively both sides' advantages and disadvantages. And then I said some think tanks reports. So, and also I said some official data to show that China has more advantage over the U.S.
Okay. So, Prince, having you are a research fellow and some other achievements, that that has come your way, or some other things that you have achieved in the course of your PhD program and the rest of them. So, are there unexpected opportunities, to innovate in your research? Are there opportunities that you have come across, just like the one you mentioned about the Giving Tuesday?
Yeah.
Are there other opportunities aside that you have also come across?
Yeah, I mean, my encouragement is always to try and find resources, support, like, PhD programs, especially in the US. They do a great job of providing us with as much as we need. We have very helpful professors. Auburn is a fantastic school. So one thing is what the school does, which is sort of, okay, give you leeway. These are journals. This is how you can prepare for publishing, things like that. We have our brown bags, right? So there's all that. And then the other part is the student's enterprise. Like, okay, what am I going to find for myself to make myself stand out? For example, this whole fellowship thing and stuff. If you just go by what the school shows you, you will never find a Giving Tuesday fellowship, because you really have to be looking at what think tanks or organizations related to your field that that give grants and stuff, what they're offering or what's out there, and you keep applying for scholarships. If you go to conferences, you can apply for conference grants and things like that. So for me, those are opportunities. And another thing is, I don't want to be in, if I say this on the podcast, I hope I won't be in trouble. I don't really be in academia, right? Most our training is generally towards, okay, you want to be a professor. I'm not really. And maybe you should ask Linggong the same question, because he will give the other perspective of when you want to be in academia. But I don't want to be. So sort of, I've worked in industry before, so there's sort of a way for example, in academia, we write on our resume, you put all your achievements, your GPA, your papers you've written. Nobody cares about that. In fact, they want you to have a 1-page resume, where in academia, they want you to have a 10-page resume, CV. So it's like, sort of understanding the standards for where you want to end up, and again, trying to look for opportunities to where, okay, if I want to be a nonprofit consultant later on, what kind of experiences do I just need to publish? I don't think so. You need to actually work with nonprofits that will help you way more than, I think, just doing academia and writing papers, if you want to be in, outside academia. So those are the kind of things that, in terms of doing innovative things or making yourself stand out, is sort of starting to prep yourself. Again, this whole marketing thing, I had been doing it even as a master's student in practice, like actually putting social media posts out, actually reviewing marketing papers and translating things like, we had research analysts who write really complex stuff about taxes, about different educational programs, and then I would translate that, and hey, anybody can read this. So sort of seeing that idea of marketing, I'm like, this is really cool. So if you do research on it, builds on what you've done in the workspace, and then, that's something marketable for the non-academic audience. So that's how it is.
So I think we have to start, winding down now, and I would like to, get your final statement on this podcast, and also probably advice that you have to give to students and all other audience, that are seeing this podcast or this episode. So I would like to start with you, Linggong. So as a way of closing, referencing is not just a formality, at least we have established that, but also a way of, to connect with and build upon ideas that inspire new research, right? So what advice will you give to a student on the importance of citation in a research work?
Yeah. So my advice is that first you should be courageous, you should be creative, you should be interested in your niche. You should find a niche to explore, and you should go through the uncharted water. You should be courageous to explore that. And for citations, previous scholars' works are important, so you need to set them properly to recognize their work, to give their credibility, and but don't be confined by their work.
Yeah.
You should break through the barrier, break down the barriers, and to explore what you like to pursue, what you like to study.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And if you don't cite properly, that means what does it amount to? Is it plagiarism? Or
Yeah, it amounts to plagiarism. It's a very serious mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Prince, I would like to also get your final statement while you respond to this question. That if you had the opportunity to give a piece of advice to a student about working on a dissertation, what would that be?
Almost everything Linggong said, really. And he used a word that you don't really hear in academia, but be courageous, right? So sometimes it's like I'll tell you, my paper was the result of my dissertation was the result of going to a conference, because I've been struggling with what I want to do for a long time. So I went to a conference, and they paired me. It's our Nova conference for nonprofit scholars. So they paired me with a professor who she just became a professor. She was a student like me, and we got talking about what she had done in her dissertation. And it was basically something similar to mine, but she was looking at the impact of IT on nonprofit fundraising. I'm like, well, I like marketing. Do nonprofits report on marketing? And that's really how my own research came about. So, one thing is courage, ask questions, right? Meet people, don't be scared, there's nothing new to say on marketing. No. Is there something a way nobody has gone before? Again, like I said, it could be, do you have a data set that you can use to test a particular theory? Or do you have a theory you want to test? Or do you have some new avenues for challenging what already exists? Those are how you find gaps, right? And then the other thing is asking questions to people who are ahead of you a lot of time, or even your peers. You can bounce off ideas, and that really leads to, okay, I think of this way, I think of this way, and then you begin to find new things. And then, for me, finally, is more than anything, I think PhD is a lot of work.
It is.
It's sometimes people think, PhD is, you just have to be a genius, you have to be intelligent. For me, you have to be ready to work, because if you can be, even for some masters, you need genius for some certain degrees, right? But PhD is all about, you read a lot, you write a lot, you think a lot about problems, and again, not just publishing really, but contributing to a field. So it's just a lot of hard ground. If you can't know how new or how important your contribution is if you don't know almost everything that's gone before. So that
means you need to read a lot to be able to understand where there are gaps and how your own work could actually fit in.
So that's what I'll say about it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our guests, Prince and Linggong, for gracing our podcast and being on this episode.
Pleasure to
We
be
thank
here.
you. Yeah, we thank you so much. And we're happy to have you on another episode of the podcast to also interrogate and discuss, further on either this topic or another topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so and to our audience, we thank you. We are here because you watch us. So stay tuned to the next episode and try as much as possible to hit the subscribe button so that you can be alerted when our next episode drops.